Welcome back, everyone, to the Draftstars Monday review video. I'm just going to go through the picks that I made across all of the games from Thursday to Sunday this week. And the new contest will pop up here on Wednesday, ready for the new week. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the first week. You won some money out of it. And if you didn't, you learned a fair bit and you'll be able to do well in this upcoming one. But just going to jump in the NRL Fantasy app and go through a bunch of those picks. So I spoke earlier on about the half and the hooker position being really important, and probably the thoughts about going for Nicho Hynes and also Ben Hunt, and that worked out really well. You got a really high score from Nicho, top the game there, and Benny Hunt also dominated with big kick meters as well. With that being 1 point every 20 kick meters, they both dominated in that category. The other option was going to be Matt Moylan, and he had a pretty poor game. So plenty of missed tackles and all the rest. So those two, if you picked the Hynes-Hunt combo, then he did really well. If you went a little bit lighter with Blake Brayley, you also scored well. But that was a good combination there. In terms of guys in the outside backs, we spoke about Raymond a little bit, but I probably didn't push you away from him. I just thought he would have an average game, and he ended up having 5 offloads. There he had the try assist and also the try, so pretty big game for him. In terms of our bankers in the forwards, we spoke about Finucane, and he when they were dominating, he managed to get an early spell, but he was scoring really well. Got the line break as well, so that was cool for him. Spoke about Hamlin Ueli being a solid option as well at that cheap price, along with Talakai being that must-have. So both scored solidly for their price point. Getting in the mid-30s there was decent, but overall, a pretty solid game. And I know a few guys that jumped in the comments and let me know how they went in this game. They managed to score pretty well. A couple of those boom or bust players, Ravalawa was one of the ones that he didn't end up busting, which we thought could happen against a better Sharks team, considering we thought they might win the match. And then so we got Moylan and Tyrell Sloan there who didn't perform very well at all. But that were kind of the guys we're looking at. And Will Kennedy and Sully were kind of in the middle there as decent options without being spectacular. So that was our first game in those picks. And our second game with the Tigers and Warriors. So we spoke a little bit about Lucy Leilua being a solid option. Someone we didn't speak about was Offengawi, but he managed to get way big minutes than what we thought. Seyfarth ended up coming into the team late, so we didn't get to speak about him. Joshy Curran we spoke about as being pretty close to a must-have, and happened to have one of his lower games of the year, but still consistent enough and wouldn't have killed you if you picked him up. Jockey Madden was my big must-have in terms of the cheapie for the week, and he scored well, scoring across the park in all categories. Guys like Egan and Aitken were solid options, but not someone that I spoke about a lot. Reece Walsh is someone I spoke about, and he got 44 in this game, so a solid one for him. Other guys, Gildart, I didn't speak about him too much, and he did well. Stafford Toa, as being a super cheap guy, if you picked up him, he did really well. Some guys that we were looking at involve Luke Garner, coming in and playing 80 minutes, just end up moving to the centres, which killed his output. So if you were following that, then well done. But Arthurs was someone I was talking about, and also Rocco Berry. So just thought the Warriors would play a lot better in this game, and they didn't happen to do so. If you picked up them, or Eli Katoa, who's another one I spoke about. Eli got injured in this one. So this wasn't the best game in terms of how we thought it would go, whereas Sharks was a little bit more consistent with our decisions and our thoughts in this one, in terms of the analysis for Draftstars Daily Fantasy. So the Bunnies and the Roosters, and this one was a very interesting one. I spoke about Cam Murray dominating, and he did it again. So he was a guy that we're looking at, being very close to a must-have, and he performed very well. Damien Cook was another one that hasn't been scoring super well, but managed to get a 66, and we said he'd be somewhere between that 45 to that 80-90, and he was right in the center of that, which was good for him. Sam Walker, a bit more of that boom or bust, and he got the 47 or the mid-40s in Draftstars, which was solid. Teddy as well, we spoke about him not playing, have played super well lately, and probably someone you could have left out, and that turned out to be the case again. Butcher, we spoke about him being pretty important in this game, and he picked up the low 40s there, so was solid without being incredible. Latrell as well was someone that we could have left. Walker, I spoke about him not being too interested in him. Guys like Graham, I thought would be a little bit more consistent than he was, in a team that won, and same with Jackson Bolo. So two guys there that did okay without being spectacular. So this was a harder one to read. When I did the preview, I was looking at mixing and matching a bunch from this game here, and also the Warriors and Tigers game, focusing a little bit more on the Warriors guys, but that obviously didn't pan out as well as we would have hoped. Moved to the Panthers and Knights game, and a few guys that I classed as pretty close to must-haves, and they were guys like Isaac Tungo, sorry, with 53, in fantasy anyway, but he was really, really good. Taylor May was a nice cheapie that did well. Isaiah Yeo we spoke about as being close to a must-have, and he did very similar to what Joshy Curran did, so they must have been chatting to each other over the phone, so we're both going to score 40, mid-40s today. Gags was someone, if you wanted to spend up big, you could have, but you wouldn't have got the benefit out of. Leo Thompson at the cheap price I spoke about, and he did well, so that was good. And then a little bit lighter, a little bit lower, we saw a few interesting ones. Barnett wasn't an okay option, unfortunately. He should be suspended for a long time, the poor fella, after a bit of a brain snap. And anyone else, you got guys like Clune who did the job. And Kurt Mann really exceeded expectations. I said that his score in round 2 was going to be probably the lowest that he'd ever get, and that obviously proved fruitful in this one. So he did really well if you decide to pick him or Stephen Crichton as well. So well done to you guys if you made some cash in that game. The Storm and the Eels was a very interesting one. Spoke about Dylan Brown being pretty consistent and Munster being close to a must pick in this one. So well done if you went for the Munster. Brandon Smith moved into the starting side late in the day, which was cool. But Papali'i was a big scorer as well. So all guys that were meant to do well, but maybe not this well, but did great. Joshy King was someone that we spoke about would score well in this game and will probably drop down a little bit over the coming weeks, just with Brandon Smith moving back to 13s. Just be aware of that going into next week. Marnie with the lighter game, Jerome Hughes with the lighter one as well. Two guys I didn't speak about too much. And Mitch Moses, we didn't want to touch him against the Storm, which over the next few weeks, he should be a much better option for your squads. In terms of cheaper guys down the list, we spoke about Penasini as probably being an okay option, but a little bit too expensive, and again, struggled against the Storm. So that was that game there, and we'll move to the last 3 games here. We got Raiders and also the Titans, and this is a very interesting one with the Titans getting out to a massive lead, 22-0, just before halftime, and then the Raiders coming out and doing really well. Biggest ones here were both for Moore and Starling, who I spoke about being really nice options. The Titans going left a lot, and that showed again with a try assist and a try. So if you picked up Bowie at that cheaper price, well done. Starling as well was someone I considered a must-have, and he delivered. Even though he got benched and came on after 25 minutes. If that scared you away, I hope it didn't, but it ended up working out well. Schneider at that 10,000 mark was good again. He's such a good player for a rookie. He's only his second game this year. Tomoko, we said that rocks and diamonds. Same with Fafita. Hopefully you stayed away from Fafita there. Sexton was solid. He was mid-30s in that first half, and then went away from there. Obviously with the Raiders coming back, and then some of the cheaper guys we spoke about. Jaden Campbell probably being a little bit too expensive. Spoke about Greg Marzoo being a solid option against the Raiders, and he didn't deliver this game, unfortunately. But he was not a super high price in that mid 1100s, 11K mark. So that was that, and we'll move to the last 2 games with the Cowboys and the Broncos there, and the Cowboys were absolutely dominant, weren't they? They played really well, and Holmes was not someone I spoke about. It was the Payne Haas one there at 22,000 was like, you can probably spend your money a little bit elsewhere for him. And if you picked him up, he did solidly without being spectacular. You probably wanted a 70 plus if you're spending that much cash on him. Carrigan came out of nowhere a bit with the extra minutes. Gilbert was solid there with Jeremiah Nene. So either one of them at that mid-tier price was going to be a solid pickup. Ruben Cotter coming off the bench dominated. I spoke about Farnworth as being a good option. And Reynolds being that kind of stock standard guy in the halves if you didn't want to spend up a little bit heavier there, which would have worked out pretty solidly for you with a nice high 40s score there. Lolo, I told you to leave him out of that one. Palacia was okay there. Hamiso, Tabuai Fado, and Stags were guys I said you could have probably picked one of the 2 of them, or a Murray Tuolangi. All didn't score very well, so you most people would have at least picked one of them and not done perfectly, but that's that. And then our last game we've got the Manly boys up against the Dogs, and that was a very strange one with with the way the game played out. I was thinking of DCE as being a must-have, just a much more consistent player than what Tommy would have been, and that played out well. An extra 20 points in this one. Guys like Ruben Garrick, you could have spent up for, but I think that was silly in this type of game. Corey Waddell ended up getting 80 minutes there, which worked out for him. Jackson, we were trying to stay away from. Burton, you could have spent up on in the halves, but didn't perform as well as we'd like. And then it was going to be a mixture of guys like Dufty and also Paseka, Max King. I talked up a lot. Unfortunately, he didn't get the minutes that we would have hoped, so that was a little bit different. Like 10 less minutes in this one. Still played well. Still got a decent score without being spectacular for your sides. And then you had guys like, if you went to a bit more boom or bust, was Tavita Pangai, and he didn't go so well, for example. Bully Moore, we didn't really speak about him. Jason Sarr being a bit more boom and bust, didn't get many opportunities as well. And that was about it, guys. I hope this review you learned a little bit about some of the players and maybe what we might expect going into next week. The matchups is a really important one here in the daily fantasy. With the year-long one, you can even if a guy's got a tough run, you can hold through that. Keep hold of someone through that and get through the other side. Whereas the daily one, you're really going for matchups. If they're an outside back, especially, you're looking for the team that player plays for to dominate and do really well for you. So just look into that in next week's matchups, and hopefully you do well next week. See you guys. Hope you enjoyed that Draftstars Sunday through Thursday review. See you later.